The roar of the Ferrari's engine shattered the stillness of the mountain road. The sleek red car shot forward like an arrow, its tires screeching as they gripped the asphalt with every sharp turn. Keanu Reeves gripped the wheel firmly, his gaze intense and focused. Sitting beside him, Patricia Taylor gripped the armrest, a flicker of concern in her eyes as she glanced at the rearview mirror, where the motorcycles were still closing in fast. "Are you all right, Mom?" Keanu asked quickly, his voice steady yet calm. Patricia nodded, her eyes not leaving the group of bikers in pursuit. "Do you think they'll give up?" Keanu pressed the accelerator, the Ferrari's engine howling. "No, but I'll get us out of here." What the bikers didn't know was that they were chasing the wrong person, a man who would never back down when it came to protecting his loved ones. Keep reading to find out how Keanu Reeves turns this high-speed escape into a powerful lesson on courage and love. The story begins. Early morning in California brought a slight chill in the air, the atmosphere buzzing with energy. Keanu Reeves took the wheel of his sleek, red Ferrari as they left Los Angeles behind. Beside him, his mother, Patricia Taylor, sat comfortably, both dressed elegantly, preparing for the upcoming charity gala. The morning sun reflected off the shiny surface of the car, creating a dazzling display as they weaved through the thinning traffic of the city. Inside, the luxurious leather interior provided an intimate space for mother and son to discuss the day ahead. The hum of the engine set a calm backdrop for their conversation. "I'm so excited about this gala, Keanu," Patricia said, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Focusing on veterans and their families is really meaningful. It's wonderful to see people coming together for such important causes." Keanu nodded, his hands steady on the wheel. "Yes, Mom. I've heard the guest list is impressive, big philanthropists and a few actors who care about these issues as well." As they continued on, Patricia noticed the red warning symbol flashing on the GPS screen, signaling heavy traffic ahead. "Oh no," she said, leaning in for a closer look. "Looks like the highway up ahead is going to be a mess." Keanu furrowed his brow, thinking. The alternate route is a scenic backroad through some remote areas. It'll save us more time than sitting in that traffic. Patricia nodded in agreement. "Sounds reasonable. We've still got about an hour and a half, and being on time for events like this is important." Keanu glanced at the fuel gauge, noticing that the gas was running lower than ideal for a long journey. "The only problem is, those back roads have fewer places to stop. We're running low on fuel." After a brief discussion, they decided to take the scenic route. "You're right, Mom," Keanu said, smoothly switching lanes to take the new route. Getting stuck in traffic with low fuel would be worse than taking this smaller road. The Ferrari smoothly veered off the nearest exit, entering a less traveled road heading toward the mountains. Leaving the crowded highway behind, the landscape began to change. The lush, green hills gave way to more rugged terrain, and the air felt fresher and cooler. Patricia gazed out the window, taking in the stunning natural surroundings. "It's beautiful, Keanu. Sometimes I forget how amazing California can be once you're away from the city." Keanu smiled, enjoying the time with his mother. "It's true, Mom. I'm really glad we have this time together before the gala starts. Events like that can get a bit hectic sometimes." They continued chatting along the winding road, discussing upcoming projects, family news, and their shared passion for charity work. The journey seemed to fly by as they enjoyed the quiet, private space and the beautiful scenery. However, as they ventured deeper into the remote area, Keanu noticed the fuel gauge again. The digital bar was dropping faster than he expected. They would need to find a gas station soon. The once joyful landscape now carried a slight sense of concern as they realized they were far from any populated areas. "Mom," Keanu said in a calm but serious tone, "we need to find a gas station soon. I'll keep an eye out for one along the way." Patricia nodded, her eyes tinged with worry, but her faith in her son's judgment unwavering. "All right, sweetie. I trust we'll find something soon, maybe in the next town over." They pressed on, their eyes scanning the roadside, hoping for signs of life, and more importantly, a gas station. The Ferrari's engine hummed steadily, but the growing fuel shortage added a layer of tension to what was once a peaceful drive. A few miles later, the fuel gauge hit an alarming low. Keanu's gaze darted between the road ahead and the gas meter, quickly assessing their options. Just as things were beginning to look grim, a small sign appeared on the roadside, pointing to a gas station in the nearby residential area. Thank God, Patricia exhaled in relief, her face softening as Keanu quickly steered the car off the main road, following the guidance of the old, weathered sign. The gas station gradually came into view, a stark contrast to the modern ones they were accustomed to in Los Angeles. This place seemed frozen in time, with old pumps standing silently under the late afternoon sun. Faded paint and rusted metal spoke of years of service, untouched by the modern world. Keanu stopped the car at one of the pumps, the glossy finish of the Ferrari sharply contrasting with the worn-down appearance of the station. He stepped out and checked the fuel options, his brow furrowing slightly. "Is something wrong?" Patricia asked, noticing the troubled expression on her son's face. "They only have regular fuel," he explained, a hint of worry in his voice. "This Ferrari really needs premium fuel." Patricia paused for a moment before responding. "We don't have many choices, do we? We can't afford to be late for the gala, and who knows when we'll come across another station." Keanu nodded, agreeing with her pragmatic view. "You're right, Mom. At least they have 89 octane here. It's not ideal, but it'll do for now. We'll fill up with the right fuel when we're back in a more populated area." As Keanu began to pump the gas, Patricia decided to head into the small convenience store to pay and pick up a few drinks for the trip. She retrieved her wallet from her purse, left the bag in the car, and walked toward the shop. It was then that she saw them. Two bikers were leaning against the wall. Near the entrance, their motorcycles parked haphazardly nearby, the metal glinting menacingly in the sun. As Patricia approached, she felt their gaze fixated on her, filled with hostility. One of the men, a muscular figure with a thick beard, wearing a leather jacket, let out a low whistle, his eyes narrowing in mockery. Well, look who it is," he sneered, elbowing his companion. The second man, slimmer with thick hair and a long scar running down his cheek, smirked viciously. "Hey, rich old lady," he said in a syrupy voice. "Maybe we should borrow that cute little purse of yours, or perhaps you'd like to share what's inside?" A chill ran down Patricia's spine, but she remained composed. She kept her gaze forward, avoiding eye contact, and continued walking into the store. The cool air inside was a sharp contrast to the warm, tense atmosphere outside, where anxiety and unease were rising on her face. While picking out a drink from the refrigerator, Patricia glanced through the window. The two men were still standing there. The scarred one was still grinning, his eyes tracking every move she made. Patricia took a deep breath, telling herself, "Don't be afraid. Keanu is close. And these guys won't dare do anything." She tried to reassure herself that they were just trying to intimidate her with their crude remarks. With renewed determination, Patricia walked to the counter to pay for the gas and drinks. The elderly cashier, with a look of quiet sympathy, subtly glanced outside at the two bikers. "Don't worry, ma'am," the cashier whispered as he rang up her items. "They're just blowing smoke. They always mess with customers, but they never do anything." Patricia forced a smile of gratitude, but as she turned to leave, the unease still clung to her. The two men were still standing there, their cold eyes like predators watching their prey. She gripped her purse tightly, took a deep breath, and stepped back out into the sunlight, hoping the cashier's words were true. As she stepped out the door, the bright California sun blinded her for a moment. In that fleeting instant, everything changed. A large hand suddenly grabbed her arm, yanking her sharply to the side. Patricia gasped, her eyes widening in terror as she faced the hulking man, his thick beard failing to conceal the malice in his expression. "No more high and mighty now." "Huh," he growled, his grip tightening painfully on her arm. The smell of leather and stale cigarette smoke was overpowering, making her dizzy. The second man moved closer, positioning himself as a wall between her and the store, as well as between her and Keanu. Patricia's heart raced, her earlier composure dissolving in the face of real danger. She wanted to scream, but fear choked off her voice. The morning sunlight, once a gentle source of light, now cast long, ominous shadows on the cracked concrete of the gas station, mirroring the dark turn of events. Just as panic seemed to overtake her, a familiar voice rang out, sharp as a blade, "Let go of my mom." Keanu's voice reverberated through the gas station, full of power and fury, a tone Patricia had rarely heard from her usually composed son. The two men turned, their expressions flashing with surprise at the intervention. Seizing the moment of distraction, Patricia yanked her arm free from the large man's grip, escaping with the raw strength of desperation. She stepped back, her eyes never leaving Keanu as he charged toward her, the door of the Ferrari still wide open. As Keanu drew closer, his sharp eyes noticed a symbol on the jackets of the men. He recognized it immediately, but he kept his reaction hidden, focusing entirely on protecting his mother. The burly man, enraged at losing Patricia and now thwarted by Keanu, swung his hand to strike her. But Keanu was faster. With the precision of an action star, he intercepted the blow mid-swing, grabbing the man's arm in one fluid, forceful motion. Using the man's own momentum, Keanu spun around, expertly twisting the arm and forcing him down onto the concrete. The man gasped for breath, his face pressed into the ground, his arm twisted painfully. The second man stood frozen, still processing Keanu's swift action. Above them, unnoticed by anyone, the gas station's security camera continued recording every detail of the confrontation. As Keanu held the first man down, another danger suddenly appeared. A third man, a stocky, bald biker with a long scar running from his temple to his jaw, had seized the opportunity amidst the chaos to approach from behind. The scarred biker had sneakily moved toward the unlocked Ferrari and was now standing there, Patricia's purse in hand, a smug look on his face. "Oh," he chuckled, his voice dripping with malice. "Looks like we have a real action hero. But can you save the day today when we've already got your mom's purse?" He raised the purse high, a sneer spreading across his face. "Here's the deal, buddy. You and your old lady get on your knees and apologize to my friend here, and maybe we'll give the purse back. If not..." He let the threat hang in the air, his eyes daring Keanu to make a move. Keanu's mind raced, calculating the situation. He knew he could take them down if necessary, but with his mother nearby, he didn't want the situation to escalate into violence. The purse held not only money but also irreplaceable family photos, important documents, and priceless mementos for Patricia. Tension hung thick in the air, like a storm waiting to break. The man still struggling beneath Keanu spat curses into the dirt. The second man had regained his composure, his eyes flickering with indecision, unsure whether to join in. And next to the Ferrari, the scarred biker continued to taunt, relishing the sense of power in the moment. Patricia stood motionless, her gaze shifting between her son and the purse that the biker now held tightly. She wanted to tell Keanu to let it go, to say that nothing mattered more than his safety, but the words stuck in her throat. She could see the determination in his eyes, the sternness on his face, and she knew he wouldn't back down. Time seemed to freeze. The scorching California sun intensified the weight of the situation, casting long, ominous shadows across the cracked pavement of the gas station. The distant sound of a car on the main road reminded them of their isolation. There was no help coming. Keanu knew he had to act fast, but every step could make things worse. His focus remained on the purse, the epicenter of this tense standoff, and above all his mother's safety. The standoff reached its peak. The three bikers, bolstered by their sense of victory, started laughing, taking delight in their cruel game. The image of a movie star and an elderly woman kneeling before them amused them to no end, their laughter echoing through the desolate station. "Come on, buddy," the scarred biker jeered, waving Patricia's purse in the air. "Let's see if you and your mom will kneel down and apologize. If you beg really well, maybe we'll leave some cash behind." His companions joined in the laughter, their voices booming in the empty gas station. They were so caught up in their victory that they didn't notice the subtle change in Keanu's posture, his narrowed eyes, carefully assessing the situation. In that moment of distraction, Keanu saw his opening. With a quick, decisive move, honed through years of action movie training, he released the first biker and charged at the one holding the purse. The scarred biker's eyes widened, his laughter abruptly silenced as Keanu closed the gap. Before he could react, Keanu had him in a headlock, one arm wrapped around his neck, the other twisting the wrist that held the purse. Keanu's movements were swift and precise, as if requiring no effort, testament to his martial arts training. "Let it go," Keanu growled, his voice low and commanding. The biker, taken by surprise, felt the shift in power and gasped for air. The purse slipped from his grip, falling to the cracked concrete with a soft thud. Patricia didn't hesitate. She rushed forward, scooping up the purse and clutching it to her chest. A look of relief washed over her face as she stepped back, maintaining a safe distance. The other two bikers, realizing their advantage had vanished, began to move toward Keanu. But he was ready. Still holding the scarred biker in a vice grip, he spoke, his tone calm yet authoritative. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Keanu said, his gaze shifting to something above their heads. As they all looked up in the direction Keanu pointed, their eyes caught sight of a small red light blinking at the corner of the gas station building, the CCTV camera. Keanu's voice remained steady as he explained, "It's been recording everything since the beginning." He raised an eyebrow, adding, "What do you think the police will do when they see three grown men with their insignia, harassing an elderly woman and attempting a robbery?" The three bikers stood motionless, the weight of Keanu's words sinking in. Their expressions shifted from anger to confusion, and then to the realization that they had underestimated their victims. Keanu slowly released the biker with the scar, pushing him away and stepping back to stand protectively in front of his mother. The three bikers exchanged uncertain glances, perhaps feeling the courage draining from them. For a brief moment, silence enveloped the gas station. The distant hum of passing cars and the faint noise of the security camera's hum were the only sounds breaking the stillness. Then, the burly biker who had grabbed Patricia from the beginning shattered the silence with a low growl. "Just because you're a star doesn't mean there won't be consequences," he snarled, his voice dripping with malice. "You think you're safe now, but remember, we know what you look like and we know what car you drive." His companions nodded in agreement, their glares full of fury, their threats hanging in the air like the oppressive heat from the pavement. Yet Keanu remained unfazed. He locked eyes with them, his calm demeanor never faltering, his body poised and ready. "I think it's time we go our separate ways," Keanu said, his tone still composed. "We can all forget about this, or we can let the authorities handle it. It's up to you." The bikers hesitated, clearly torn between their desire for revenge and the potential legal consequences they faced. The morning sun reflected off their motorcycle handlebars as they fidgeted, each metallic detail seeming to add weight to the tense atmosphere. After what felt like an eternity, the biker with the scar spat on the ground and turned to walk away. "Let's go, guys," he muttered. "This isn't worth it." The other two followed, their faces darkened with anger as they shot hateful glares at Keanu and Patricia before mounting their bikes. The roar of the engines shattered the silence, a sound that brought both relief and an undercurrent of lingering threat. Keanu waited until they were gone before turning to check on his mother. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his eyes scanning her for any sign of injury. Patricia nodded, still clutching her purse tightly. "Thanks to you I'm fine," she said, her voice trembling with gratitude. "But Keanu, those threats, don't worry about that," Keanu reassured her gently, guiding her toward the Ferrari. "Let's go. We're running late, the gala is waiting for us." They got into the car together. Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that the confrontation wasn't over. As he started the engine, the roar of the Ferrari's engine was a comforting sound after the tense moments. But as the car pulled away from the gas station, Keanu kept his eyes fixed on the rearview mirror. His suspicions were soon confirmed when he saw the familiar figures of the bikers in the distance, trailing behind at a discreet but unmistakable distance. It seemed they weren't ready to let go. As the Ferrari accelerated onto the main road, Keanu couldn't stop thinking about the plan, how to protect his mother and end this dangerous game. As the Ferrari wound its way up the mountain road, Keanu's mind raced faster than the car itself. The urge to stop and face the bikers head-on was strong, a temptation honed through years of playing action heroes who never backed down. But his mother's presence beside him in the passenger seat called for a more cautious approach. This wasn't a movie set with choreographed action scenes and safety measures. This was real, and the risks were far too high for reckless actions. The road ahead stretched out, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the rugged California landscape, each curve a challenge and an opportunity. A chance to gain distance from their pursuers, but also a trap if not handled carefully. Patricia's voice sliced through Keanu's thoughts, strained, almost unable to suppress the anxiety. "Keanu, please be careful," she pleaded, her gaze locked on the rearview mirror. "They're still following us. Every time we slow down for a turn, they get closer." Keanu glanced in the mirror, confirming his mother's observation. The bikers were still there, their bikes closing in. He could see the determination in their movements, the way they leaned into the curves, mastering each turn with practiced skill. These men weren't about to give up easily. "Don't worry, Mom," Keanu said calmly, despite the rising tension within him. "I've got this." His focus remained on the road ahead, his hands steady on the steering wheel as he expertly navigated the next turn. As they neared Lake Arrowhead, Keanu began to explain his plan to his mother. "When we get to the hotel, they'll fall back," Keanu said, his gaze flicking between the road and the rearview mirror. "They won't want to cause a scene in a crowded area with tight security." Patricia nodded, but her hand still gripped the door handle tightly. "What if they don't leave?" she asked, her voice heavy with the shared concern they both held. Keanu's expression hardened slightly. "Then I'll have to get you inside to ensure your safety. After that, I'll deal with them." Patricia opened her mouth to protest, but the words died in her throat as Crestview Mountain Resort came into view. The modern architecture of the hotel stood out. Against the backdrop of the mountains, like a beacon of civilization after a grueling journey. As they approached the resort, Keanu noticed that the bikers had finally pulled back. When they drove past the security gate into the hotel grounds, the bikers stopped a short distance away, just outside the perimeter of the property. A wave of relief washed over both Keanu and Patricia, but it was tempered by the fact that the bikers, though keeping their distance, were still a clear threat. They were watching them, not taking their eyes off them. When the Ferrari pulled up to the front of the luxurious hotel, where valet staff and hotel personnel were busy preparing for the charity gala, Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation wasn't over. The late afternoon sunlight hit the glass facade of the hotel, casting a harsh glare, as if underscoring the fragility of their situation. As a valet approached to take the Ferrari, Keanu quickly assessed the situation. These men wouldn't just walk away, and their presence not only threatened his family but everyone attending the event. He turned to Patricia, and the decision was made. "Mom, I need you to go inside and let the organizers know I'll be late," his voice low but firm. "I have to handle this before it gets worse." Patricia hesitated, her eyes widening with worry. "Keanu, please," she pleaded. "Come inside with me. Don't worry about them anymore. We're safe here." But Keanu shook his head, determination clear on his face. "I can't do that, Mom. As long as they're out there, no one's truly safe. I need to end this now." Patricia looked at her son, not just the famous star, but the steadfast man she had raised. She understood that once Keanu had made up his mind, especially when it came to protecting others, nothing would change his course. A mixture of pride and concern filled her eyes, and she nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. As Patricia got out of the car, her elegant outfit seemed almost at odds with the tension in her posture. Keanu braced himself for what was to come. He watched her walk toward the hotel, ensuring she was safely inside before he turned his attention back to the distant figures of the bikers. He took a deep breath and shifted the Ferrari into gear. Plan had already formed in his mind, a way to face these men on his terms. As he drove away from the safety of the hotel, Keanu knew he was taking a risk, but it was a calculated one, honed over years of both on-screen and real-life experience. The Ferrari's engine roared as he approached the security gate, his eyes fixed on the bikers continuing to follow behind. Once past the gate, he pulled the car over to the side of the road, rolling down the window to let the mountain breeze rush in. He knew they were paying attention. With a deliberate wink, he issued a challenge. "Let's settle this. You want to fight?" One of the bikers grinned, his hands slightly clenched as if preparing for a fight. "There's plenty of space around here for that kind of game," he taunted. "A fight? You've got motorcycles and I've got a sports car. How about a race? Keanu's voice was confident, not confrontational. He met their gazes directly, causing them to pause, the smirk on their faces slowly shifting to contemplation. Keanu could see the wheels turning in their heads, weighing the challenge he had just laid out. Finally, the largest biker, the one with the scar, spoke up. "All right, movie star," he sneered, a competitive gleam in his eyes. "Make it interesting then. Whoever gets to that White House up on the ridge first wins." Keanu's eyes followed the biker's finger pointing at the prominent house atop the mountain, quickly estimating the path and calculating the best way to navigate it. "How do we bet on this?" Keanu asked, his voice calm yet full of challenge. The biker grinned, exposing his yellowed teeth. "We win, you apologize for disrespecting us and pay up. You win, we'll leave, not bothering you or your mother anymore," one of the bikers said, his voice thick with a challenge. Keanu returned the hug, then pulled back, gesturing toward the door. "I think these guys belong to you," he said softly, though there was a seriousness in his tone. David's expression darkened as he glanced over Keanu's shoulder, his gaze falling on the three bikers still standing in the doorway. Their once confident expressions had turned to one of confusion and fear as they realized the gravity of their mistake. "Come inside," David ordered, his voice cold and commanding, the tone of someone used to being obeyed. The bikers stepped back, their eyes lowered, avoiding David's sharp gaze. Keanu followed them inside, stepping past the three men. The inside of the clubhouse was dim, a stark contrast to the bright afternoon outside. As Keanu's eyes adjusted to the darkness, he noticed other club members gathering, drawn by the noise. The main room, adorned with military memorabilia and the club's history, now bore witness to what would come next. David turned to Keanu, his face now showing concern and anger. "What the hell happened, man? What are these idiots doing?" Keanu calmly recounted the events of the day, the harassment at the gas station, the chase, and the race that led them. As Keanu finished, the faces of the club members shifted, their displeasure evident in the way they looked at their wayward brothers. David's expression stiffened, his anger barely contained. He turned back to the three bikers, his dark eyes full of authority. "Tommy, Mark, Hank?" His voice was low and threatening. "Is this true?" The three bikers, their earlier bravado now gone, stammered apologies. They tried to justify their actions, claiming it was just a friendly race, a bit of harmless fun. But their weak explanations couldn't overshadow the calm precision of Keanu's account. David's voice sliced through their stammering like a sharp blade. "Enough," he barked. "Do you think I'm a fool? Do you know who this is? Do you know what he's done for this club?" Other members of the club muttered in agreement, and Keanu felt their gazes upon him, full of respect and gratitude. David's voice rose, growing more intense. "Back when this club was on the brink of collapse, it was Keanu who stepped in. His generous donations saved us, kept this place running, kept us off the streets, and gave us a purpose." David swept his gaze across the room, meeting the eyes of the veterans in the club, their looks full of admiration. "He's always been a silent benefactor, never seeking recognition, always there when we needed help." The three miscreants slowly shrank under the weight of this truth, the impact of their actions beginning to sink in. Tommy, the largest of the three, was the first to find his voice. We didn't know," they stammered, their earlier confidence gone, replaced by confusion. "Not knowing is not an excuse," David interrupted, his tone cold and measured, as though cutting each word. "You violated everything this club stands for. Harassing an elderly woman, threatening a man who has only ever helped us. That's not what we're about, and you know it." A heavy silence descended on the room. The other club members looked on, their faces filled with disappointment and anger. Keanu remained still, silent, but his presence was a reminder of the higher purpose the club should uphold, the brotherhood that should have prevented such wrongdoing. David took a deep breath, his resolve clear in his posture and the firmness in his gaze. "You know the rules," his voice rang out, low and decisive. "Your actions have consequences. Take off your patches and club insignia. You're out." The three men turned pale, the reality of the situation hitting them like a physical blow. Being kicked out of the club wasn't just about losing a pastime, it meant losing a support system, losing family. "Please, Mark, give us another chance. We'll make it right," one of them begged, his voice barely audible. But David's answer remained unchanged. "You know the rules clearly, and you deliberately ignored them. There's no second chance for this behavior." With trembling hands, Tommy, Mark, and Hank removed their patches, placing them on an old wooden table worn by years of use. The sound of Velcro tearing through the silence was like a humiliating end to their membership. As the three men slinked out of the clubhouse, shoulders slumped in defeat, David turned back to Keanu. The anger had dissipated, replaced by warmth and sincere gratitude. "I'm sorry you had to go through this, my friend," David said, gently patting Keanu on the shoulder. "But I'm glad this brought you here. It's been too long. Come, have a drink with us, catch up with the old crew." Keanu glanced at his watch, thinking of the charity gala and his mother waiting at the hotel. But as he looked around the room at the faces of the veterans he had helped over the years, he felt a pull stronger than any social obligation. He smiled and nodded. "Yeah, I'd like that. Let me make a quick call." Keanu pulled out his phone and stepped into a quiet corner of the clubhouse. The wooden walls and vintage photos created a backdrop vastly different from the luxury hotel he had planned to go to. As he dialed his mother's number, a tinge of regret lingered in his heart for changing plans so abruptly. Patricia answered on the second ring, her voice laced with worry. "Keanu, is everything okay?" "I'm fine, Mom," Keanu quickly reassured her. He then explained about reconnecting with David and the Veterans Club, and his decision to stay. When Keanu finished, he could almost feel the relief in his mother's voice. The initial worry was replaced with understanding. "Oh, Keanu," Patricia replied warmly after he finished, "I understand. Stay with those brave men. I'll handle the charity event on my own." After finishing the call with his mother, reassuring her that he was fine and explaining why he chose to stay, Keanu felt a peaceful calm settling within him. The day had taken an unexpected turn, but sometimes, he thought, the most meaningful connections are forged in the crucible of hardship. The atmosphere in the club began to shift. The tension from the confrontation gave way to a sense of unity, of reunion. Old friends came up to Keanu, eager to shake his hand and share stories of how his help had changed their lives. In that moment, surrounded by men who had served their country and found a second family in this club, Keanu knew he had made the right decision. He realized that today, this was where he needed to be, not at a glamorous gala, but here, among real people, those who had lived their lives with integrity. The late afternoon light streamed through the dusty windows of the club, casting long shadows across the main room. The walls, covered in military memorabilia and photos that chronicled the club's history, seemed to come alive, telling stories of service, brotherhood, and honor. David stood before the members, his posture straight and commanding, evoking memories of his days in the military. The room fell silent as he began to speak, his voice heavy with disappointment and resolve. "Brothers," David started, his gaze sweeping over the faces of the veterans, "today we are reminded of the core values that bind us together, values that some of us—" He paused, his eyes landing on the empty spots where Tommy, Mark, and Hank had stood moments ago. "Seemed to have forgotten." The members of the club nodded, their expressions somber, mixed with regret for the actions of their former comrades. Keanu stood silently among them, feeling both like an outsider and yet like an indispensable part of this community. David continued, his voice growing stronger as he spoke. "This club was founded on values we've held dear throughout. Our service, honor, respect, and an unwavering commitment to our brothers. What happened today is a disgrace to everything we stand for." He turned to Keanu, motioning for him to step forward. "Our brother Keanu, who has quietly supported us for years, has been harassed and threatened. And worse, these actions were not only directed at him, but also at an elderly woman, his mother." A wave of silent outrage rippled through the crowd. David's eyes flashed with anger as he recounted the events. "They've violated the most basic principles of our brotherhood, respect for others, especially those who have helped us, and protection for the vulnerable. Their actions tarnish the image of all of us and everything we have built here. Keanu could see the impact of David's words on the faces around him. Some were angry, others ashamed that members of the club could act in such a way. But in all their eyes, Keanu saw one thing: resolve to uphold the values that David was reaffirming. Let this be a lesson to us all, David continued, his voice softening just a little. We are more than a club, we are a family, bound together by shared experiences and a commitment to be better men than we were yesterday. We owe it to ourselves, to each other, and to those who support us, like Keanu, to live up to these ideals every single day. As David's words settled in, a respectful silence enveloped the room. The weight of the day's events and the reaffirmation of their values seemed to press down on each member's shoulders. It was a moment of shared reflection, a recommitment to the principles that had brought them together in the first place. After a moment, David's face softened, and he turned to Keanu with a warm smile. Now, my friend, I think we owe you a drink and a long overdue conversation, he said. The tension in the room began to dissipate as members approached, greeting Keanu warmly. Some shook his hand firmly, while others expressed their heartfelt thanks for the steadfast support he had shown them over the years. The atmosphere, once charged with tension, transformed into a warm camaraderie, the bonds of brotherhood unmistakable. As Keanu mingled with the veterans, he found himself swept up in their stories of life, struggles, and victories. An elderly member, his face weathered and his gait uneven, approached him, tears glistening in his eyes. "Mr. Reeves," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I don't know if you remember, but 7 years ago, your donation helped me get a knee surgery. I was in a bad place back then, unable to work, nearly losing everything. That surgery gave me a new life. I never had the chance to thank you properly." Keanu, moved by the man's words, grasped his hand warmly. "I'm just glad I could help," Keanu said sincerely. "And please call me Keanu." There were many more stories like this. Veterans spoke of how the club had been a lifeline when they struggled to reintegrate into civilian life, about the support and brotherhood that had helped them face PTSD, unemployment, and family hardships. And in many of these stories, Keanu's quiet generosity played a pivotal role. Keanu felt a lump form in his throat. He had always known that his donations had helped, but hearing these personal stories truly opened his eyes to the profound impact his support had on their lives, something that financial reports could never convey. David, watching these moments unfold with a smile, approached Keanu, holding 2 bottles of beer. "You know," he said as he handed one bottle to Keanu, "I don't think you've ever realized just how deeply you've affected the lives of these men. Your support wasn't just about writing checks. You've given them hope, a chance to rebuild their lives. And now, seeing you here after all these years, I'm genuinely moved." Keanu took the beer, nodding his thanks, his gaze sweeping across the room, thoughtful. "I'm just glad I could help," he said quietly. "These men have sacrificed so much. They deserve all the support we can give them." As the two clinked their bottles in a silent toast, Keanu felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The day had started with tension and conflict, but it had led him to a moment of genuine connection and purpose. The day had proven that violence was never the answer. The years of quiet support he had given to the club had now come full circle, offering protection to him and his mother when they needed it most. Surrounded by the men whose lives had been changed because of his generosity, Keanu realized that sometimes the most meaningful destinations are the ones we never planned to reach. This story serves as a reminder of the power of connection, kindness, and the quiet yet impactful acts that can change lives. Have you ever felt that the small things you do could make a difference in someone else's life? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments. Your voice could have a significant impact and inspire others. If this story touched your heart, don't hesitate to share it with friends and family to spread the message of mutual support and respect. Thank you for supporting the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to receive the latest updates. The stories are collected from various sources and do not represent any individual or organization. They are shared with the intention of spreading human values in life and have been rewritten with the support of AI. If there are any mistakes, kindly overlook them with understanding. Wishing You all the best in life.